Saints going all the way, Saints going all the way. Kumbaya, that's the Who That Nation. Game on the line, you can bet we take them. Go black and gold, black and gold. Don't stop, boy, we trying to win the Super Bowl. We rock and roll, rock and roll. Touchdown, go Saints, we gon' do it some more. We rock and roll, rock and roll. Touchdown, go Saints, now give me some more. Now, who that, holla, who that, holla, who that, holla, who that, who that, who that, who that, who that nation. Black and gold, black and gold. Oh yeah, fire stuff. Black and gold, black, who that? They ain't ready for us. They ain't ready for us. They ain't ready for the black and gold, black, who that? They ain't ready, what up? They ain't ready, what up? They ain't ready for the black and gold, black and gold. Game time, baby, and I go for the Saints.
Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Shouts out to everybody listening to the podcast, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. Really do appreciate your time. This isn't going to be a long podcast. This is going to be relatively short. I got a few things that I need to get to on today, but I want to say appreciate everybody's time. We're going to be talking a little bit about Jameis Winston and Jameis Winston returning to practice on Wednesday. And what does this mean for the quarterback position? You know, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen now that Jameis Winston returns to practice. It seems like, he's a little bit in better shape, dealing with some of those injuries that he sustained over the course of the last few weeks. And not to mention, coming into the season, coming off a torn ACL. So what does this mean? Jameis Winston did have a light practice on yesterday. He was one of a few guys that actually took part in practice that was light. But just actually having Jameis Winston out there, I know it means a lot to him. He's a guy that loves to play football. He's passionate about the game. He loves what he does. And, just having him out there, I think that, the team, really likes him a lot. And I think it means a lot to him. But, just looking at Jameis Winston, looking at the situation, looking at what's going down as far as what the quarterback position is looking like, especially the Saints coming off, putting up 39 points and over 200 yards of, rushing. I really feel like, I wouldn't put too much stock into this. I think the New Orleans Saints are going to kind of slowly bring Jameis Winston back. And the way that Andy Dalton is running the offense, there's no need to rush him back. Now, if this was one of those situations where Andy Dalton was struggling and he looks really, really bad, I think that there would be a sense of urgency trying to get Jameis back. But the way that the offense is looking right now and the way that they're structured, they can win some games. They can stay in games and they can win them in the end. And that's the best thing about all of this. Regardless to how you may feel about the quarterback situation as of right now, I don't want to get into that because we all know what that actually means when we're talking about Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. People have their reservations, but regardless, you have yourself a really good situation when it comes to the quarterback position. You got a guy that's a seasoned veteran that had over 150 starts in his career. He can come in and back up a guy that you look at as being that starting quarterback. I do feel this way. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The more this offense starts to improve, or the more Andy Dalton helps this team win, it's going to be hard to go back to Jameis Winston. And I talked about that a little bit on the podcast, the NFC South versus the NFL, that's available on YouTube. If you didn't see the show on yesterday, I encourage you to check it out. But I just said, no matter how you may feel about Jameis Winston, I mean, you have to be real with yourself. This isn't a guy that's making $200 million that's got hurt. This isn't a guy that a franchise invested a top dollar in. This is a guy who basically the New Orleans Saints took a flyer on. And I really don't feel like they were really that embedded or that really bought into what Jameis Winston is. I think they look at the talent. I think they look at the upside. But I don't think that, they're looking at him like, oh, he's going to be the definitive starter and we're really going to try to make this thing work around him. I also noticed, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have, that, the plays that they were running on Sunday versus the Seattle Seahawks were not the plays that they were normally running with Jameis Winston. But I will say this, it's probably based on the fact that, Jameis Winston has a different skill set than that of an Andy Dalton. And normally, like when coaches are getting prepared for games, they get their quarterbacks involved and they ask the quarterback about what plays are you comfortable with running. And they try to build an offensive play scheme around, some of the things that the quarterback feel comfortable in doing. With Andy Dalton, I just feel like, when you look at him and based on like the way that he actually plays, you can run a Drew Brees type offense. The offense can be similar to that of a Drew Brees. But when you have the talent of a Jameis Winston, the arm talent, the arm ability, I think that, they're trying to scheme and trying to build the offense around him when he's out there. Is it fair? Probably not. I will say that because, a lot of people will ask, Taysom Hill in that first game versus the Atlanta Falcons, what he ran for like a 70-yard run, and then he followed that up with a touchdown. So it's like, it was like a Taysom drive, right? And then all of a sudden, like we didn't see Taysom anymore after that. We didn't see any QB power. We didn't see Taysom lined up in the backfield trying to throw the football. We didn't see some of these innovative plays when Jameis was out there. You could have incorporated Taysom the same way you incorporate Taysom with Andy. So I feel like that is a fair take. And you have to wonder to yourself, why aren't the Saints doing that when Jameis was out there? Maybe they felt like it wasn't necessary. Maybe they relied mostly on Jameis' arm talent. But regardless, you don't lock a horse in a barn like Taysom Hill, no matter what the quarterback can do. You find ways to put this guy on the field, and the New Orleans Saints did that with Andy Dalton. So it's going to be interesting to see going down the line. I still think the Saints can kind of get away with the whole we're just trying to wait for him to get healthy excuse, but it's going to come a time when he's going to heal up and he's going to feel good, and you're not going to have that excuse anymore, and you're going to have to make a decision. And I think it's going to be obvious if Andy Dalton continues to play the way that he's playing, that Jameis Winston is not going to get opportunity to play. Now, if Andy Dalton goes out there and he starts stinking it up, or he leaves a lot to be desired, that opens a door for Jameis Winston to be able to come back. I know some people like Jameis Winston is our quarterback. Jameis Winston is our guy. Jameis Winston is the dude that's going to lead the team. Like, you can psychologically program your way to believe in that if you want to, but this is a result-driven league. And fair or unfair, injury or no injury, like what we seen out of Jameis Winston is grounds for a coach to say he left a lot to be desired. And that may not be fair, but that's just the reality, folks. Like, life isn't fair. And when you have a coaching staff that's just trying to prove themselves, like Dennis Allen, who is a coach that a lot of people don't really believe that he can actually right the ship. A lot of people feel like he's a better coordinator than coach. And when you have that type of stigma, you're trying to find ways to try to get that stigma off of you. And if the Saints end up winning with Andy Dalton, I'm just saying, like, it would not surprise me if they continue to go with him. And I know it might make a lot of Saints fans mad out there, especially the ones that really support Jameis Winston. But that's just the way that it's going to go. That's just the way it's going to be. I don't see Jameis Winston. I don't care if he's healthy or not. I don't care if the Saints are winning. Like, let's just say, okay, they won last week. And let's just say if they win against Cincinnati and they win against the Arizona Cardinals and they're on a 3-game winning streak and Jameis is healthy around that time, I still don't believe that they would put Jameis Winston back in the game. And, it's really going to expose itself. Right now, it just looks like Andy Dalton is playing because Jameis is hurt. And you don't have that excuse, right? If Jameis wasn't hurt and he was playing the way that he was, that would be considered a benching. But to me, what was the difference between Jameis Winston playing with 4 fractures in his back against Carolina versus him possibly playing versus the Minnesota Vikings? I feel like, to me, that was a little bit of a benching, but it didn't look that way, and it was an excuse benching, because now you can be like, hey, you're hurt, like we don't want you to be out there. We got Andy. He can right the ship until you get back. It's going to be hard for him to get back on his field if Andy Dalton can spring off a couple wins. And I think that's something that the biggest Jameis Winston supporter are going to have to accept. And you might get mad, you might get upset, and you might feel like it's unfair. But once again, life isn't fair. And these teams are trying to win. And if they feel like Andy Dalton has got them on a streak, you're going to continue to play. I believe the Saints and the Cowboys are on a collision course. Both are playing their backup quarterbacks who are playing good. The team that will make it is the one who will go back to their starter. Absolutely not. The one that will make it. Nah, Dak Prescott going to start when he get back. Cooper Rush is just holding it down. Look, and there's no way the Dallas Cowboys are going to allow Dak Prescott to sit on a bench making $200+ million. That's just not going to happen. Like, it's a difference between the New Orleans Saints, their quarterback situation, and Dallas, right? Dak Prescott just got that big contract, and that gives him all the leeway, right? Ain't nobody is going to allow somebody making that type of money that has the ability to play. They're not going to put them out. They're not going to lead them on the sidelines. They're just not going to happen. I can't see Jerry Jones doing that. It's good for Cooper Rush. It's probably good for his bottom line. I'm pretty sure he probably just signed like a 1-year deal or something like that. So if he's playing this well, it might open up a possibility for him to be a starter for another team going into 2023. So the way I look at it, there's no way that when Dak Prescott comes back, that Cooper Rush not going to be sitting on that bench. And that, because that's a lot of money that you have sitting on the bench. It's completely different. Jameis regressed mentally from this year to last year. Look, I don't know if he regressed mentally or not. I don't know what's going on with that. I can't say that he regressed mentally. I don't believe that. I don't. I just feel like some of those injuries kind of piled up. And also, I just feel like Jameis' personality is that he's an ultimate teammate and he wants guys to shine. And I think a lot of the passes that he throw is because he has that level of confidence in some of those wide receivers out there. Like, think about that pass that he threw to Jarvis Landry and he made that unbelievable catch. Or Michael Thomas, that back shoulder fade. Like, some of the passes that he throws, it has a lot of, he believes in these receivers. I mean, that play to Callaway where he went up and caught it with one hand. I mean, that was in triple coverage over there. I just think that sometimes what gets Jameis in trouble is the fact that he has so much trust in his players, and instead of being cautious with the ball, he'd rather be a little bit reckless because I guess in the process, it can make his teammates look good or, to give his teammates a big play. So I just think that that may be his Achilles heel. But I don't think he regrets mentally. I think what you have is a guy that believes in himself. I think you have a guy that thinks that he can, do some of the things that, like you said, your favorite quarterback can do. I really feel like he believes that, so I don't think he lacks confidence. I think sometimes what gets in his way is the fact that he trusts his teammates a little bit too much. And if they can't make that play, then it end up being grounds for interception. Or, sometimes he trusts his arm strength. It's kind of like with Favre back in the day. Favre felt like he can, fit a ball anywhere, because of his talent. But, I don't think he regressed mentally. And that's just my opinion. I know we signed Jordan Howard from the Eagles. Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. I thought that this would be a good fit. He's kind of similar to that running style over Latavius Murray. They're about the same size and build. And, he's a guy that's had some success. I mean, dating back to the Chicago Bears, him with Tariq Cohen, they were a good 1-2 punch. He goes to Philly, has an up and down, career there due to the fact that he was dealing with injuries. but he's a solid guy. You know, he's a guy that you can kind of put in there, be a good change of pace back, can get you some of those tough yards. He's a big physical guy. And I think that it's a good fit for the New Orleans Saints. You know, if things continue to be this way with Mark Ingram not being able to get off to a good start, Jordan Howard would be a good change of pace, running back. You know, it can go out there that can help out Kamara and get some of those tough yards for you. I won't judge Jabo until healthy. Honestly, the big difference I seen was last year, Jameis used his feet running a lot. This year, he didn't. Yeah, Kim, that's a good point. And I think that you have to chunk that up to the fact that, you know, he was dealing with a little bit, of that back injury. And then also we have to take into account as well, you know, him dealing with that ACL. You know, sometimes, you know, guys probably make those type of decisions, you know, in real time. Like, I think the reason why he wasn't running or he wasn't scrambling had a lot to do with the fact of his back injury. Like, when it's not like when you're in a pocket, you're protected by, you know, the refs, roughing the pass or what have you. But when you get out that pocket, you're a runner. So these guys are going to try to do everything they can to try to get a shot on you. You know, they call them, you know, in the words of Greg Williams, those remember me shots. You know, so if he goes out there trying to scramble and somebody hits him in the back, which I felt like was just absolutely ridiculous, that whoever came out and said that about Jameis Winston's back, like, they should be fired. They should have been fired that day, all right? Because I see what they were trying to do. They probably were trying to go for, like, the sympathetic role. And, you know, if Jameis starts to screw up and resorts back to the way that a lot of people saw him, is because he's dealing with injuries. But I just think that put a huge target on his back. So if he's running, you know, guys are going to try to take a shot at his back. All right? If they know that you got 4 fractures in your back, and you're running, like, they're not going to try to, you know, hit you in the shoulder. They're going to try to hit you in the back, like in the area where, you know, the pain is. So I just think that was a dumb idea. But yeah, I just think that he was just making those decisions because he knew that if he was to scramble or if he was to try to get out that pocket trying to make these plays, it might end up, you know, costing him more than just a few weeks. So I think he was being very cautious with it. But that was one of the main reasons why a lot of people felt, including myself, that he may need to sit down and be able to heal up, because football is already hard enough to think about where you want to put the ball as a quarterback. It's another thing when you kind of thinking about what's going to happen if I get hit. All right. That's just a whole nother can of worms that is something that I feel like quarterbacks don't need to be thinking about at that particular time. If you're dealing with an injury, you know, you got to be able to focus on what the players are actually doing. After seeing Atlanta almost beat Tampa, we have to look at their defense different. Jameis played great D-lines his first 3 games while hurt. Dalton didn't play great D-lines. Well, look, I think we can look at who they played against or whatever. I'm just saying, Jason, nobody, they do not evaluate they do not evaluate quarterback play like that. They don't. Like, I'm just being 100 with you. These guys care about winning. We're trying to make this thing, like, we're trying to justify this. That's what I'm trying to say. We're trying to justify it. But they don't work like that. This is a results-driven league. They don't care how they win. They just want to win. Right? And nobody's going to say, well, Andy had success because they played against the 28 ranked deep. No. All they care about is that Andy Dalton, starting quarterback, helped the Saints win. That's all they care about, you know. And regardless to how Taysom ran, regardless to how Alvin Kamara was out there doing his thing, guess what? As a starting quarterback, that's still a win for Andy Dalton. Fair or unfair? Like, we can talk about who they played against, what defense, but they're not taking that into consideration. They're looking at the way that this offense is looking like with Andy Dalton as a quarterback, and they're going to be looking at what the offense looked like when Jameis Winston was the quarterback. There's nothing in between. Nobody's going to care about, well, if this player was playing this week, maybe he wouldn't have had so much success. If this team wasn't ranked so low defensively, or this team wasn't ranked so low offensively, like, nobody cares. Like all they care about is the results. And right now, you look at the comparison of the quarterbacks that and how their offense is structured. That's what they're going to be paying attention to. Fair or unfair. If Jameis Winston continue to heal up in 2 weeks, I can see him starting at quarterback versus the Raiders on the 5th Sunday. I don't know. Like I said, I just don't. I wouldn't put it past it, but I'm just saying it is going to be extremely hard if Andy Dalton is winning you football games to pull him when he is giving the Saints momentum. I'm telling you, it's hard. Like we seen this before. Matter of fact, for some of my Saints historians out there, look no further than Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake left the Cincinnati Bengals, ironically, came to the New Orleans Saints, and he was supposed to be the starting quarterback, right? That the Saints paid him to be the starting quarterback. All of a sudden, Jeff Blake gets hurt. In comes Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks start winning games and winning some more games. And then the next thing you knew, he's the full-time starter, and Jeff Blake is the backup. Well, how in the world did this happen? And then you also have to take into account that was, ironically, Jim Haslett's first year, right? So Jim Haslett, who is trying to establish himself as a head coach, a la Dennis Allen, has a quarterback who he started the season with, end up getting hurt. And then comes another quarterback, and he plays extremely well. They win games. Matter of fact, they win their very first playoff game in the process. So all I'm saying is I've seen this movie before, right? The same situation. Jim Haslett, new coach, trying to establish a new standard, new culture. Get yourself a quarterback that's been established, played somewhere else, supposed to be the guy, ends up getting hurt. In comes another guy, wins you some games, and next thing you know, Jeff Blake, you never see him again. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I've seen this movie before, so I would not put it past. I would not put it past, the way that, things are structured. Because, look, I feel like this, Jerry. I think a lot of our isms, I call them isms, or Peytonisms, right? We basically evaluate the team sometimes, and it's not our fault, but it's just the way that we're wired. Because, like, as a Saints fan, if you've been a Saints fan over the last 16 years, we're basically outliers, right? So for 16 years, you had stability at the coaching position. So when we look at it, we're looking at it from a coaching standpoint of a guy that's established, a guy that's been there, that done that kind of dot the I's and cross the T's. And I think when it comes to the quarterback situation, of course, like I strongly feel this way. If Sean Payton was the head coach of the Saints, if Andy Dalton was playing the way that he was, he'll still go back to Jameis. I really feel that way. But when you're a coach like Dennis Allen that don't have the skins on the wall, you just want to win, especially when you're starting your career. You was 8-28, right? So what are you now? What 10-31 or something like that? I don't know. But so there's a stigma on you. Like people don't understand. Like when it comes to coaching and how people are perceived, like Dennis Allen is the Jameis Winston of coaching, right? A guy that people just feel like is just, I don't know about him. I'm not too sure about him. Okay, you know what I'm saying? We're going to give him a chance to change the narrative. He's the same type of guy, like just from a coaching standpoint. When I'm talking about with the Paytonisms, I just feel like sometimes when we think about some of the moves and some of the strategic methods that the Saints use, we're looking at it from a Sean Payton perspective, like how the team was ran when Sean Payton was the coach. And yes, like I said, logically, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're if this was Sean Payton, I should say, I really honestly believe no matter what Andy Dalton did, good, bad, or indifferent, he would have won with Jameis. But when you're trying to win and you're trying to establish yourself as a respectable coach and, this other job, that's not an indication of who I am, you just want to stack up some wins. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, look, for anybody that feel like, he might end up, coming back and playing when he gets healthy, I completely understand how you feel. But sometimes, like I'm telling you, we have a lot of Paytonisms you know what I'm saying, that's established inside of us. And the way that we evaluate this team, we're evaluating it based on Sean Payton being here, like winning in October, right? Oh, we won in October. Well, no, Sean Payton's Saints won in October. Well, we used to have a good home field advantage. Sean Payton's New Orleans Saints had a good home field advantage. So this isn't Sean Payton's team anymore. This is Dennis Allen. So I think we got to kind of, adjust the antennas a little bit, you know what I'm saying, to understand that that guy isn't here anymore. And some of the practices that we're used to may not look the same. And we just can't chunk it up and just be like, oh, I know what they're going to do. Because honestly, at this point, we do not know what they're going to do. So, but it's a fair take. But I'm looking at it. It's a different coach. It's a different philosophy. And that's just the way that it is. Larry Bird says, if I'm the head coach, I'm asking the players who they want to be the starting quarterback. No, I don't think that's a good idea, Larry, because that's a recipe for disaster. And that can also divide a locker room. And also, that's not the type of coach that is going to stay in the NFL very long. Like, I tell you like this, man. I've been in management like basically my whole life. This probably like for the last 5 years is probably like the only time I really haven't really truly been in management. I've been in management since I was 20, right? And as a leader, you got to have a plan. Like if it's of course you want to incorporate guys in certain situations, but when it comes to like overall operations of the store, being able to like put the store in the best interest, what I'm saying, when it comes to like staying on budget, dealing with payroll, all these type of things. There are certain things that managers have to do that you cannot incorporate, your team, right? And I just feel like this is one of them because number one guy may like Andy, the other guy may like Jameis, right? And that may cause a rift in the locker room because you got, one side believing this and the other side believing that. And also it shows indecisiveness on from a coaching standpoint. So how a guy's going to buy into that? So I feel like Dennis Allen has got to make this decision on his own, right? And don't incorporate that. Now I'm pretty sure like, yes, like some of the leaders, he'll probably go to them, because, they've been there. They're well respected, but I'm just being honest. Like, why would anybody care? No disrespect to this brother, but why would anybody care if Keith Kirkwood say, oh, Andy Dalton need to be the quarterback? Who cares, right? Maybe like, I'm pretty sure like just like when the Saints were going to possibly draft Patrick Mahomes, they talked to Drew Brees. I feel like they probably talked to guys like DeMario Davis or Cam Jordan or something like that, talk about where the team is, but they're not going to just have locker room. Okay, man, look, I got this list right here. We got this, look, we going to put it, we want you to write down who you feel like going to be the starting quarterback. We're going to ball it up. We're going to shake it up in a hat, and then we're going to vote on it. Nah, it shouldn't be like that. Like, this is a decision that Dennis Allen needs to make on his own, right? Whatever you decide to do, just roll with it. Because guys believe in confidence. If you're around here, saying, okay, man, we're going to run a halfback dive. It may work. I'm not sure. It might work. Like, huh? What are you talking about? Like, look, we're going to run this halfback dive. We about to get these yards. We about to get this first down. Okay, man, you believe in this? Yeah, you buying into it? I'm fired up about it. You fired up? Yeah, I'm fired up. Let's go do it. Right? So you got to be able to show that level of leadership, especially when you're making tough decisions like this, because this isn't like, should we have water coolers in the locker room here? What we're deciding is the guy that's going to lead the franchise going forward. The quarterback is the guy, right? If we talking about, paper or plastic or, like I said, a water cooler need to be in a locker room or, what kind of air freshener do y'all want to have in the bathroom or, dispensary soap? Like, okay, we can probably, get some ideas with that. But when we're talking about actually the quarterback position, one of the most important positions on any franchise, look, you gotta trust that with the coach, not somebody that's just on the team. Fair criticism is cool on Jameis, but most of y'all just don't like him, and it shows. I see y'all true colors. Yeah. Look, Kim, I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to just put everybody in a box. Now, I know what you're, insinuating, and that is the case in some circles. And I want people to understand this because some people's comprehension skills are trash. I'm just being honest. Like some people just hear what they want to hear. When I was in college, they used to call that pseudo listening. Pseudo listening is basically like if you ever seen the cartoon Charlie Brown, and you used to have the teachers, and teachers sound like this, womp, 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 womp. All of a sudden, they understood exactly what they were saying. That's kind of like what I feel like when I talk and what some people hear. Because they had this one guy who basically said that I said that anybody that don't like Jameis Winston is a racist. And I'm like, where did you get that from? And then he was like, he said that some people, and he said, and then he followed up. He said some people just don't like Jameis because of the color of his skin. I'm like, do you know everybody? Do you know everybody? Like, if I don't know anybody whose birthday is October 13th, and I say something like, man, today is somebody's birthday. I don't know nobody in particular, but we know that somebody out there was born on October 13th. Maybe somebody that's watching this right now was born on October 13th. If you weren't born on October 13th, am I talking about you? No, right? So how can you do you know everybody? That's the whole point. But people are going to listen to what they want to listen to. But back to back to your statement, Kim. Yeah, there's some people out there that never bought into Jameis Winston. They felt like, what they seen in Tampa was just an indication of who he is as a quarterback. And, they were waiting. They were waiting in the wings. They were waiting to jump out the trees, right? Stealth style, you know what I'm saying? Like, and be able to have this verbal assault on Jameis Winston once everything starts to fail. And those are the type of people I got to say, man, I don't want to say I can't stand because I don't know, I don't know them people personally. They might be great people. But that's the type of stuff I can do without, right? If you don't feel like the guy is the guy, I just feel like you just need to come out there from the jump and say it. Don't just wait till the guy fails and then all of a sudden, as my grandfather say, pour water on a drowning man. Don't wait for him to fail and then all of a sudden, I told you I knew it. I knew it the whole time. Like, I don't know. I just can't stand that. But all I know is this. Anybody that wanted this guy to fail, anybody that was preying on this guy's downfall is not the type of Saints fan I want to roll around. Because regardless of who the starting quarterback is, no matter who they are, where they're from, I don't care if they're black like Jameis, white like Andy, or blue like Skeeter Valentine. As long as they can go out there and they can facilitate and be able to run the offense, I can care less. All right. And I'm definitely not preying on anybody's downfall that's the starting quarterback for my New Orleans Saints. Mike, thank you very much for $2. Says Dede was not on the team yet in 2017. Dede was next year. Okay, I don't know who we talking about here. Demario Davis? Yeah, we talking about Demario Davis. Okay. Yeah. Hello, TJ, but Who Dat Nation, please leave Taysom as a utility guy. He's the best there. Blessings. Have a great day. I'm out. Yeah, Tyra, look, I don't even want to get into that. Anybody, I feel at this particular point, if you're just trying to box Taysom Hill into the quarterback position, I just think you're doing a guy a disservice. You're doing your team a disservice, to be honest with you, because he can do so many different things. So why wouldn't you want him to be able to be out there doing all those different things? Like, it's so beneficial to the team than just having him as a quarterback. I'm not going to get into it. Whatever you feel about Taysom as a quarterback, whatever, I'm not getting into all that. All I'm saying is I just feel like you'll be doing him a disservice by just putting him at the quarterback position when he can do so many different things to help your team win. You can clearly tell the team likes Red Rifle better. I know what you're referring to, Larry. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm gonna just ask you this, Larry, and feel free to comment. But did you see the mic up by Cam Jordan? That's all I'm asking. Did you see the mic up by Cam Jordan? Because I want to make this thing clear, and I want to put I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I don't want to say that you made this statement based on a certain particular thing. So before I get into that, Larry, you can feel free to answer that question, and then I'll respond to you. Because I don't want to be like, oh, you saying this just because I have a statement that I want to make, but I want to make sure that you seen what I'm talking about. Stick with hot hand until Dalton starts messing up. I think that's what they're going to end up doing. I'm going to stroll down a little bit, folks. I apologize if I missed somebody's comments. I don't care who's starting. I just want to see wins, honestly. Taysom, Jameis, or Andy. Shoot, even when we had Ian Book starting, it would have been fine with me if we went on a good winning streak. Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I told you, whoever helps this team win, I'm all for it. Whoever's a quarterback on Sunday, they got my undying support. Doesn't matter. Andy gets Kamara involved way more and runs the offense. Jameis doesn't take what the defense gives him, and that's a fair take. But and I also can just look at the fact that, maybe some of the things that he was just lacking due to injury. I can understand if a person feels that way. Like I said, man, to me, whatever side of the fence that you're on, like I feel like here, I'm gonna just say here, I see a lot of people when they have like certain reservations about a guy, they always validate it for the most part. And I can appreciate that. It's not, oh, I don't like, what I'm saying, he ain't it. Why he ain't it? I just don't see it. Can you clarify? Right? And they can't. But regardless to what side of the fence you're on, you validate it. And I can appreciate that. I don't think I can accept, oh, he sucks. Why he suck? I don't know. He just sucked. I just can't accept that. We need to run the ball and use ball control, pass, and attack like Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh ran the West Coast offense. He's the godfather of the West Coast offense. What the Saints ran last week was we consider the West Coast offense. So, yeah, you had Roger Craig out there kind of catching the ball out of the backfield, running between the tackles. I call him the godfather of the Kamara type, the Marshall Faulks, like people like that. Like Roger Craig was that guy. He was the guy catching the ball out of the backfield and being utilized in the passing game. And when Bill Walsh was, started the West Coast offense, but, Joe Montana and them, they ran that thing to perfection. They ran it to perfection. I say stick with I think I already read this. I think you probably revised it a little bit based on that. So I say stick with the hot hand Dalton, let Winston heal. Hey, if he's not broken, don't change it. Now when Dalton messes up, then put Winston in. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. If you start Andy this week, you have to start him the following Thursday. I agree with that. But I say this, man. I've seen an injury list since we're bringing this up. I seen an injury list, and I'll be honest with you. If one of those guys can actually play on Sunday out of the three that's hurt, the Olave, the Thomas, or the Landry, I think we should be okay. And maybe, I don't know, if we have to have on a short week, and let's just say Michael Thomas can play on that Thursday. I mean, that would be pretty good, right? You going into that game, you're fresh. Versus guys who probably played on Sunday will be a little bit dinged up and have to come back and turn around and play that type of game. You'll actually have some playmakers out there pretty relatively fresh going into that game. And that will be, a huge help versus, going against a team like the Arizona Cardinals. To me, I feel like I got to check their record. I don't know if they have a home game or not, or they're playing on the West Coast or not, but you also have to take into account, the time difference and all that kind of stuff and where they played. And, you got to take that all into account. But if somebody like Jarvis Landry or Michael Thomas can come back on that Thursday with fresh legs, that'll be huge. That's why I give them the treatment. Let's see. That is a stretch. Game planning is better now. Cam mic'd up is the best thing that happened to this team this year. And see, I only like Andy Dalton because he seems safe and less reckless. Otherwise, I would prefer Justin Field or Huntley. Yeah, Tyler Huntley to me, that would be That'll be a great addition to the team. I was thinking about that guy, while I was on the NFC South versus NFL when they was talking about their quarterback issues in Carolina. Shouts out to my guy, Mike Ricks. He was talking about, the issues in Carolina. I'm like, man, Tyler Huntley can be a guy. Like, that dude going to end up being a starter somewhere. So if it don't work out with Jameis and it don't work out with Andy, why not get a guy like Tyler Huntley? I think you can run. That dude is really good and very, very underrated as a quarterback. And especially as a guy you definitely could look at, being that you don't have a first-round pick, so you're not going to get C.J. Stroud and you're not going to get Bryce Young and you're not going to get like some of these other quarterbacks out there, Caleb Williams. You're not going to get no guy like that. So you might as well, get a guy like Tyler Huntley, who's been in the league and has shown flashes. I mean, he's put up points. He's did really good in the Baltimore Ravens offense. And, he's a guy that can hurt you. He can make plays with his leg and he can make plays with his arm. As and he can drop some dimes in there. I don't know if anybody ever seen this dude play, but that's a guy that if things don't pan out with the quarterback situation down here, is a guy we need to have our eyes on. Let's see, Jameis just needs to get rid of the ball faster, and a lot of people would be happy, just saying. Yeah, I think that you have to be able to speed. I think you definitely have to speed up the clock in your head, especially when you have an offensive line that maybe lack a little bit in certain categories. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady offensive line is not as strong as it was last year, so he's getting the ball out of his hands quicker. Jameis had 11 sacks when he was playing, and then Andy, what he got, like 3? I think it has a lot to do with the fact you getting the ball out your hands. You got to be able to get it out your hands when your offensive line isn't where you want it to be. Excuse me. Hey, SOTS, the injury bug is biting the mess out of the Saints for the past 5 seasons. Yeah, you ain't lying. We just can't stay. We can't win the battle of attrition. Tyler Huntley is super dope. And do you think we can trade Michael Thomas for picks? I'm pretty sure you probably can, but I don't see them trading Michael Thomas. I just don't. I don't see them trading Michael Thomas. I know it's frustrating as a fan because you know how talented he is and he hasn't really played and he's been dealing with these injuries, but I don't think the Saints have interest in trading him, but you never know. Never know. Tyler Huntley will be a restricted free agent in 2023. So, I mean, it still means the Saints can sign him. And you also have to take into account, look, he's not going to be a franchise quarterback. That's Lamar Jackson, right? So I cannot see the Baltimore Ravens not paying Lamar Jackson. All right. I can't. So that's going to allow a guy like Tyler Huntley to be able to go out here and maybe be a starting quarterback somewhere else. I feel like if things don't pan out, then he could be a starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. But I do feel like even though he is a restricted free agent, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that a team would throw some money at him in order to be the starting quarterback. And if they pay him as a starting quarterback, I can't see the Baltimore Ravens counteracting that for him to be sitting on the sidelines holding the clipboard. I don't see that. I do not see it. I don't see it at all. I'm going to take a few more, then I'm going to have to get up out of here, folks. Like I said, I got something that I need to do. Let's see. I will donate a body part to keep us healthy. Nah, don't do that now. Jason, we aren't saying Dalton is the same great quarterback. We are just saying he is better than Jameis. Where were you when Tampa had Jameis? Well, that's another, it's some people's opinion. Honestly, I think the Saints might need another quarterback after this season. I'm not worried about Jameis Winston health for the disc in his back. That's where I kind of think he should retire. I don't think he should retire, man. I mean, guys get injured all the time. Guys have back injuries. Guys have knee injuries. Guys have ACL injuries. I don't think he should retire. Hey, TJ Colston really was a beast. The guy averaged 78.8 yards a game in the playoffs, and now in the Super Bowl era, that ranked 6. Let's see, in 10 games for a player in history, the quiet assassin. Yeah, look, there's no surprise. Marcus Colston was an incredible wide receiver based on where he came from. I think he played tight end at Hofstra. The Saints, really worked with him. He was a 7th-round pick. I mean, about 3 picks from being Mr. Irrelevant, and he ended up being one of the best wide receivers in New Orleans Saints history. And I mean, I think everybody in the Who That Nation respects Marcus Colston. But my final thoughts is it's good to see Jameis Winston back at practice. It's good to see him in the fold. I would like to see where his health is going forward, but I still believe you have to go with Andy Dalton as the starter going up against Cincinnati and having him starting for a couple of weeks. And I know that can be tough, especially for Jameis, because he feels like for every successful drive, for every successful play that Andy makes, for every win that the Saints make, it could be a possibility he can find himself on the sidelines even longer. But you got to trust the process, man. You got to get yourself healed up, and you want to have, a good showing when you do get back on your feet. You don't want to go out there and be trying to fight for a starting job and end up, looking like, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league because you can't do some of the things that make you special as a quarterback. So I get it. I get it. You want to play, you want to be a competitor, but at the same time, you got to be smart with it as well and get yourself healthy so you can help the team the best way possible. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're about 11 subscribers away from 9,000. So if you have not subscribed already, please do so. Help this channel grow. Help us reach, 10,000, what we want. But please help us reach 9,000 if you haven't subscribed. Previous episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And you can also check me out on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is